Oh hey everybody, Dylan here. Welcome back to the channel. So today's Friday, that means it's going to be an old Smackdown episode review. Like always, we're kicking it back into school. Okay, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going with that. Usually it'll be the previous week's episode, so like this week would have been the 20 seconds episode, but I already had a note for March 15th, the week before last. So you know what? Let's just do that one. Clear out some notes. Why don't we? Okay. Okay. The show starts off with The Rock coming out with the electricity. I think this is the first time he debuted the I'm gonna call it the final boss entrance with the like, pew, 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 and then The Rock showing up in the middle. You know. Oh, and this was the first time he reused the Hollywood theme. That was an interesting segment because I'm going to side tangent the first minute into this, right? So, usually with me, these Attitude Era nostalgic things don't get to me normally. But as soon as I heard the Hollywood Rock theme, that got to me. That I presume the same way like Attitude Era nostalgia gets to people. My era was the Ruthless Aggression era. I know what you're thinking. Oh, I'm so sorry for you. And you know what? To be honest, like flip a coin. You're kind of right. For me, that era, anything that happened during that time of wrestling will always be nostalgic. And The Rock was... The Rock's The Rock, you know. But for me, that's The Rock I guess, relate to more than The Rock of the Attitude Era. So for me, it was just like cool seeing my childhood Rock again, so to speak. But this version, I guess, is going to be like every version of... I saw this theory, right? That this version is like every version of The Rock that combined together. You know, like you got the beginning with the "if you smell what The Rock is cooking," which kind of is like that weird like I'm going right into Hollywood 2000s Rock. But then you got like him going down The Rock Says The Rock, which is like the Attitude Era him. And then it leads into the Hollywood Rock theme, which duh. So it's kind of like, all right, Dwayne Johnson is gone now. You all booed Dwayne Johnson. Now The Rock's coming back out, you jabronis. Rambling aside, though, that was so nostalgic and cool for me. Like, I don't care if he ever came out again with it. Just hearing that at least one more time was so freaking dope. After he comes out, they run down the Mania matches as he's coming out, specifically the ones with The Rock and the Bloodline involved. So the two matches, I don't know why I wrote that. Anyway, when he makes it to the ring, you can see there's a table and a chair set up, like a little rock concert, if you will. So you know what that's going to be. By the way, they're in Memphis. They don't mention that till Rock's cutting his promo. I don't know the center, but they're in Memphis right now. The Rock is very, very much so cheered here. So he tells the crowd that normally he would berate and scorch the crowd down. But this city, Memphis, is different. When he started his wrestling career, he started in Memphis, so this city means more to him than the other cities do. He finally does his whole, like, finally, The Rock has come back home bullshit that he does, like, 5 times now whenever he returns. I'm sure if you're in the crowd, that's like, oh, such a cool moment because you're caught in the moment, but watching that on TV was like, really, man? Really? Alright. He starts explaining that this is the home of Elvis. Close enough, you know, Memphis is close to his actual home, whatever. And that this is the home of blues and country. Again, close enough. I mean, Nashville, you know, Memphis. What's the difference, really? He brings out his backup players. He said their names, but honestly, guy like me, with all due respect, didn't pay attention. They're talented artists, though, so shout out to them, 2 people. You such and such and you such and such number 2. He talks about how a fan in the crowd apparently sounded, and I quote, drunk and horny, which got him some heat backstage. I would bring up that article now, but maybe I'll do like a rundown of everything that's happened there in March sometime soon. Maybe. Don't keep me to that. Long story short, it got him some heat because they're supposed to be PG, and then he said some other words that got him some heat. I don't know. Okay. Alright, he does the song thing, and it's not his normal, like, let's rock that song. It's just a different song about Seth and Cody and what he's going to do to them at Mania. It's more entertaining than I'll make it out to be. Then after that, he talks about his fanny pack he used to wear in the 90s. He brought up the turtleneck photo. You know the photo. And how Cody will cry to his mama. I just picked the highlights out of this, like the pinpoints, honestly, so sorry if it's not like a one-for-one what he said. After that, he transitions to how Cody was born and brings up drug and cheap champagne. Brings up that his dad knows not to do drugs and cheap condoms, and that Cody was a mistake. He then, after that, goes after Seth Rollins and that his wife's more popular than him. Ooh. And that The Rock will make his title disappear. And something about a sports star? I don't know. I wrote that down. I don't remember. Anyway, he goes after Cody Crybabies and call them all crybaby bitches and says twice that they can kiss the ass of the final boss. So much for PG. That line also got him in a little bit of heat backstage. He then goes more serious as he moves everything out of his walking way as he cuts a promo. And he says, last week, Cody did something to The Rock. And they show him the recap of him slapping The Rock. He then says Cody finally manned up and grew balls. Again, so much for PG. Then Cody went on Raw and cried when he says that. He shows Cody crying afterwards. He then makes fun of him for crying and calls him something that got censored. I don't remember what he called him. That was also something that got him in heat. He then says he doesn't want to talk to Cody anymore. He wants to talk to his mama. Cody took something from him, so he's going to take something from her family, from her child. He says on night 1, the Bloodline will win, and on night 2, the Bloodline rules will cause Roman to retain. But don't worry, Momma Rhodes, because The Rock will whoop Cody with The Rock's belt. And he pulls out The Rock's belt at that point, which is different than his belt on Monday, like previous Monday's review. And with the blood on it, he will hand it over as she's crying and whisper in her ear. I'm going to get the singing pipes out for this. What can I say except you're welcome? I can't sing. I can't whisper sing. I can't do any of the above. And then he ends it with a solemn, like, if you smell what the final boss is cooking, as they play him out. It was so dope. Literally just reviewing that, it's giving me goosebumps. I think we're in an era of wrestling, and I've said this just in my personal life. I've said this since Cody's return at Mania a little bit ago, and once the Triple H regime took over, we're in an era of wrestling that whenever this ride does come to an end, we're going to look back and say, holy hell, we were so spoiled. We got the greats of the Attitude Era. We got the greats of the Ruthless Aggression Era in John Cena. We got the greats of, like, the PG era. We got the greats of this generation, whatever they're going to call it. God, we're spoiled. We're spoiled. We got a reason for Roman Reigns not to retire. We got the Tribal Chief. We got the Bloodline, man. There's so much good we got. We questionably got Mick Foley coming out of retirement in the future. We got Stone Cold Steve Austin returning. Like, there's so much good we have gotten out of this that I feel like when it's all said and done and we're in the next era, we're going to look back at this era the same way. You know what? I'll say it. I hope I'm not proven wrong here. We're going to look back at this era the same way that people look back at the Attitude Era. Back to the review, right? After that, we go backstage where La Familia, as I called them, I forgot. Is it? I'll say it later on. I think it's like Elgato Del Fantasmo. But they're getting ready for their match against the LWO after ad. This is part of the qualifier for the 6-pack tag team ladder match, so you have to win this qualifier to advance next week, I think, is the thing. And then whoever wins that tournament gets a spot in the 6-pack qualifier, I think is how this works, if I remember right. Sorry if I just made up something there. But I keep on saying the LWO, but honestly, I don't remember their names. It's not Rey Mysterio, and it's not Carlito versus it's Humberto and Angel Garza. The match ends with Elgato Del Fantasmo, I was correct, winning to advance in the bracket. They advanced number one seed, apparently. It's kind of cool that they're doing a bracket to kind of counter culture March Madness. At least that's what I'm getting out of it, I guess. After that, they show Damage Control backstage arriving, and then separately they show Baylee arriving earlier today. As they go to the ad break, come back and Kayla Braxton is at the entranceway, and she says, "Please welcome my guest tonight." And LA Knight's music cuts her off, which gets a pop. Woo, a good pop. And he says, "Let me talk to you." No, he says that later on. He was asked about his search to find AJ Styles later. How's that going? The search for AJ Styles, how's that going? He asks if he can cook for a minute, and then he grabs the mic, and Kayla goes backstage, and he says, let me talk to you. I just screwed up his catchphrase somehow, and I said it twice today. He talks to us, about how last week Styles said he needed to be humbled, and he likes that. Yeah. He then asks AJ to come out and humble him right there. After a pause, he then runs down AJ and how short he is, claiming that he's scared. He can drive all the way to Australia. Yeah, drive all the way to Australia. Think about that one. But he can't come to Memphis. He then comments something about how AJ said X marks the spot. Nah. LA Knight marks the spot. LA Knight spots the marks. Yeah. He then throws down a challenge for AJ, and that at Mania he owns his ass. So much for PG, right? Saying ass 24/7. He goes to leave, or he kind of puts down the microphone, soaks in the crowd for a second, and as he's doing that, AJ comes out and hits him in the back with a chair. He then sits the chair on his throat and his torso and tells him that he accepts. He sits down on the chair, obviously, but he tells him that he accepts while everybody's trying to pull him off, and I hate that shit so much. If I ever do a list that's like top 10 things the Triple H era does that I hate, that's going to be on that list, I swear. Commentary then transitions to the U.S. champion and what happened last week. What happened last week? Well, that's a good question. I'll get to last week probably 2 weeks from now, but I don't know. Eventually I'll get to what happened last week. Commentary then transitions to the U.S. champion and what happened last week. Oh, wait, I already said this part. Just rewind a little bit, Dylan. And then after that, we transition to Nick Aldis and Logan Paul talking about what happened last week. The Paul brother says he wants something done and wants something to happen, and Nick Aldis doesn't have any of it. They kind of go back and forth. The Paul brother says, "Oh, well, I feel like you're going to do something about it since you're the GM, and it's kind of your job to do something about it." And then Nick Aldis is like, "You know what? If you want to do something about it, you can personally request that I think Owens apologizes to you in person." The Paul brother runs down that Nick Aldis hasn't found an opponent for him at Mania, and he's a terrible boss, this, that, and other. And then we end that segment. Oh my gosh, I haven't rated anything for this show, so we're going to take a pause real quick. Ready? So, let's see here. That opening segment, the Rock, you're welcome thing, we're going to say that 4.5 stars. After that, the backstage segment with La Familia. Again, why do I keep on calling him La Familia? God. Elgato Del Fantasmo. I can speak, I promise. The whole backstage segment and them winning, I'll rate that 3.5 stars. Damage Control arriving earlier doesn't get a rating. The LA Knight promo, I'll say it advanced it, but it was kind of predictable, so 4 stars. Commentary then transitions. Oh, wait, I said that one. How many times am I going to fucking say this line? That backstage segment, I'll give 3 stars. Nick Aldis carried it. I hate Paul brother. After that, Grayson Waller with Austin Theory comes out to a one-on-one with manager against Orton. I wonder how that one will go. Beforehand, there's a promo where the Bloodline are doing their thing, and Kayla scares Paul. Freaking plus 10 moment of the night. Best highlights of the highlights. Paul starts to answer her question, which her question was asking if the Bloodline has a response to the challenge. They start to answer, but Jimmy takes over. Oh, wait. Oh, this was the promo where Jay challenged Jimmy the previous week. It's the Bloodline sans Roman, sans Rock, by the way. Jimmy takes over and says that he accepts. He interrupts the wise man talking. Anyway, match happens between Logan Paul and Orton. Or, sorry, you know who, Grayson Waller and Orton. There we go. Where in the middle of it, the Paul brother comes out to get on commentary. I hate that spot too. I want to add that. Thankfully, he doesn't interfere. And after a crazy sequence, Orton hits a surprise RKO to win. I hate the predictability, but it was awesome that sequence was from what I remember. And also the fact that they didn't do the predictable way to get to the same story beat that they were doing. They brought him out and it went from A to like A.1 to C. You know what I mean? Like, it went a different route than what was expected. Anyway, after the match, Theory jumps on Orton, and Logan Paul was going to punch Orton. I think with they said that he has like a bionic fist now or something like that, so that was pretty dope. But Kevin Owens comes out to save him. Sorry, I complimented a Paul brother. I rescind my statement. I recede it. Kevin comes out to save Orton, and Orton almost hits Kevin with an RKO by accident. Theory tries to attack both of them, but he eats a stunner RKO combo, which was dope. Nick Aldis then comes out and asks him if he got that apology that he wanted from Orton. Then he says he's determined his opponent, opponents at WrestleMania. It will be a triple threat between him, Orton, and Kevin Owens. So I'm going to end that match with 4 stars, shockingly. You know, I don't want to give anybody named Paul for the last name, shout out to Heyman, anything above like 2 stars or 3, whatever my highest rating is. But also, like, this was an entertaining match, and it was a nice story beat to get them to where they needed to be. Commentary then transitions into talking about Damage Control and the Baylee drama. Then they go backstage where Damage Control are interviewed about how they aren't going to let Baylee make it to Mania and that they run the show. Unfortunately, 3.5 stars. Damage Control has lost their oomph since losing Baylee. I can't wait till Dakota Kai and Baylee become a tag team. They're going to be so cool. When we come back from ad, Santos Escobar has a one-on-one against Dragon Lee. It ends with Santos Escobar picking up the W. He did hit a move. I forget what type of move it was. Maybe his finisher, but it was cool. Then they all jump Dragon Lee until Carlito comes out and beats up everybody except for Escobar. Escobar then jumps Carlito and gets the numbers on him until Ray comes out to save Carlito in a slow-ass walk to the ring, by the way. And I think this is the one that Ray had like the gray beard and looked so different. I wasn't expecting that to actually be Ray. Anyway, Ray tries to hit a 619, but Escobar rolls out of the ring and leaves with his crew. Then he, being Ray, throws out a challenge next week for them to battle. Forget Mania, we'll battle next week. 3.5 stars. Good match. After that, we see Baylee taping up her hand as she's getting ready for her match coming up after the quarterfinal tag match qualifier. That was such a mouthful. It's between Pretty Deadly and Pete Dunne and Tyler Bates. I forget what their team is called, but I read it out later. The match ends with a double burning hammer from the New Catch Republic to qualify for bracket number 1. So it's going to be them versus the winners from earlier. Who was the winners from earlier? Elgato Del Fantasmo versus New Catch Republic. After they show a promo for fan signs, which that's dope, please bring more signs to the events, we get the main event between Baylee and Dakota Kai that ends with Damage Control getting involved. Naomi tried to come out to help her out, her being Baylee, but the numbers proved to be too much for them as Damage Control proved to be dominant, and Asuka looks to have tweaked her knee off of a move, which, by the way, a follow-up on that, she did tweak her knee, but it's okay because she returned to action at the recording week's Smackdown, aka last week's Smackdown. Damage Control stands tall as we fade to black. So, did I rank everything? Let me think. I didn't rank the previous match. So, Santos Escobar versus Dragon Lee with the return of Mysterio. I'm going to rank that like, flip a coin. 3.5, sure, why not? Ray returned, but it was kind of a sad return because he's not 100%. Then the match between New Catch Republic and Pretty Deadly, I'll rank 3.5. Why not? And then this main event segment, I'll rank 3.5. Why not? So this overall show gets a star rating of 3.5. Why not? If you watch the opening segment, honestly, you watched everything that's the talking point of this show. The ending was Damage Control beating up Baylee, which is a good note to move them forward, but also predictable because that's how WWE's formula for heel versus babyface that turned on their team or was turned on by their team matches normally go. I'm not cynical. I still love the show. So let's see. Today's Friday. I'll see you tomorrow for tonight's episode of Smackdown. Bye!